Hello everyone, and welcome to the Greater Sudbury Public Library's virtual craft night. Tonight we'll be making tin can lanterns. For this craft you will need a few supplies and tools, including nails, and I recommend using a variety of sizes and hopefully nails that are rather sharp. They seem to work best. You're also going to want to have a hammer on hand, your tin cans of course, as many as you'd like to use, and you also have the option of using a permanent marker to help you draw in your design, as well as a ruler to help maybe measure out your design. And some other supplies that you might want to consider are things that are going to help stabilize the can as we're hammering it and also reduce the noise that that's going to make. So for these supplies you might want to have a towel or some kind of a soft surface to rest the can on, like a piece of foam, perhaps some rags to stuff the can, rubber bands to add to the back of the can or tie around the can to give it some friction to hold in place, or maybe even Play-Doh or dough would work very well for this too. Don't forget that eventually you're going to want to have some tea lights or small candles or even battery operated tea lights to put inside your can to light it up. So the very first thing that we want to do is remove all the labels from our cans, as well as wash out our cans so that they're ready to be turned into lanterns. Our next step is to draw a design on our can, and this is something that I learned the hard way, so you probably want to start with a very simplistic design, and you can make it more complicated as you go. I recommend using a permanent marker, maybe a thin tip marker if you have one, to outline your design on the can. Something else I learned after the fact was that it was actually easier to hammer into the depression of the ridges of the can, or the convex areas of the ridges of the can. So I would put your marker dots in those spaces instead of on the bulge areas of the can. Next we want to prep our workspace, and this is going to look different for everyone depending on what you have on hand. If I would have had Play-Doh at home, I think that would have worked really well to make sort of like a U-shaped bowl to hold my can while I'm hammering into it, but unfortunately I didn't have any Play-Doh or dough at home, so I opted to use a towel just to sort of like absorb some of the sound as I was hammering. But I did find that the towel slid a bit as I was hammering, so you have to be careful for that. For added noise reduction, you could also stuff the can with some fabric or maybe some rags. I found that this also helped keep the shape of the can when it was packed very compactly. Also, as I continued on with the activity, I found that by adding some rubber bands around my can, it helped keep some friction between the back of the can and the towel and kept the can from sliding around as much. So if you have some rubber bands around, it's not a bad idea, or maybe like a rubber mat or something would work well too. But believe me, this process changed multiple times throughout my experiment with the tin can lanterns, so just try not to get too frustrated as you work out the best setup. Alright, we've made it to the fun part, so now we are going to pick up a nail. Hopefully you have some fairly sharp nails, maybe you have a variety of sizes to make different size holes in the can, and you're just going to line it up with your marker point and hammer it in. Something to keep in mind here is that you don't need to actually hammer the nail all the way into the can, just enough so that you make a hole and it will allow the light to shine through. You're going to go ahead and hammer out all of the black dots that you created in your design, and that's about it. So when you've made it through that process, and believe me, it is a process, you will have a beautiful tin can lantern that you can put outside on your deck, or put a battery operated tea light in, put it in somewhere inside. You could also add 2 additional holes at the top of the can where you could maybe strap a piece of wire through to make a handle, or maybe even paint the can. On that note, happy crafting! Thanks for tuning in to our video tutorial. I hope you are able to check out another one of our videos in the future, or otherwise attend in person, in quotation marks, when we host our next virtual event. See you then!